Hey guys, Matt here again, Matthew Tait, and we're on the self-esteem train. We're learning about self-esteem and we're finding techniques to fix it, to lift it, to improve it, to create the internal resilience so we can all face our challenges of life. So this one is very interesting. If you find yourself knowing what to do, but you don't do it, this might resonate, being the operative term considering what we're about to talk about. And so today we're going to talk about self-esteem and the physical nature of it. So we've got our self-esteem, the idea in our head. We've got that generalization, our opinion of ourselves, right? That all makes sense, right? So we've made a bunch of decisions on what things mean through our life. All good. That was the previous videos, but this one's an extra piece that's often missed. And in different modalities, different methods of healing and adjustment and different types of personal development, this is about physical and the nervous system, not just in the mind. Right, so that's what I've written here, not just in the mind. We're talking about your mind and your body. Your vagus nerve has put memories and emotions into your body and it remembers them. So what is going on here? Well, what if you learned that visibility equaled danger? What if you learned that expression, self-expression, equaled some form of danger or loss, right? What if you had the idea of risk and your whole family was risk averse? In order to fit in and feel like you belong, it was a danger if you did face risk, right? And as a result, all the entrepreneurs and business owners and people who go further take calculated risks without losing it all, but they find a way up the chain. So as a result, your visibility, your expression, and your risk profile is, I'm not doing any of it, right? So if you're trying to do something, you know what to do, but you're facing the unknown. The older we get, the harder that can seem. So that danger, the body then creates emotion, it creates anxiety, it triggers shame, it can stop confidence, right? So this comes down from this little loop here. We've got the nervous system, we've learned what something meant, it's then stored it in the body as danger, it comes out in this feeling of anxiety, the nervous system is trying to protect you, or triggered shame, stopping confidence. And then, of course, that retreats you back to a safe identity. You know what to do, but you're not doing it. But your safe identity will not face these things that allow you to unlock the things you know you need to do. And so how do we get out of all of this? Well, emotional safety is part of the deal. If someone's having an emotional response, it's a clue that we need to do some different types of activities. There's a whole bunch of things in life coaching, in neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, in hypnotherapy. There's a whole lot of stuff like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's things in EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's a bunch of them, right? There's a whole range of ways you can get your mind and your body back in alignment with what you want, because you've got a desire, something you know what to do, but you're not doing it. So we need some emotional safety around it. We need some regulation to be able to get yourself back to a level feeling, your emotional state. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. It all starts with your state. If you're in the wrong state, you're going to act in a different way. Then we get to exposure of gradual activities, right? I'm not going to ask you, public speaking was the example in the last video, I'm not going to ask you as a beginner public speaker to go and speak at, I don't know, at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, or which is like 100,000 people, or the Sydney Opera House, or I don't know, pick the biggest sort of public speech that you could think of. I'm not going to ask you to do that if you've never done it. Ever, right? So what we're going to do, this is what I did originally, is I went off to Toastmasters, and I did in a very small group of 10 or 15 people, and I slowly learned how to public speak. Gradual exposure therapy, you could have called it. I hadn't really thought of Toastmasters being a therapy, but I guess it was. I guess that's what I did. I created emotional safety. They were a nice group of people. I had regulation in that I got to do it in a way that I was comfortable within my sort of box of what was possible. And I gradually exposed myself, and I eventually, as for example, I started out just doing my little projects, my little public speeches, and then they would only be like 6 minutes long. It started out with 30 seconds, then it was 3 minutes, then it was 7 minutes, and then I did longer speeches. And then eventually I went into the club contest, which is just against the 10 or 15 people in my little club. And then eventually I think I won one year a couple of different of the topics, and so then I went off and I represented the club against other clubs. And then I actually won one of those, and then I represented the area of clubs against the other area of clubs, right? And then eventually got knocked out of the contest, but it was exciting, right? So I gradually exposed myself to feeling safe, feeling emotional safety, feeling regulation. It was very, how do I put it? It was on the edge of my comfort zone, right? I was really pushing through it. And as a result, but I could handle it. So it was one of those interesting ones. It was exposure therapy. Who would have thought, eh? So that's an interesting thing. Think about this for yourself. Do you have anything in your nervous system where there are things going on where you've learned in your self-esteem that visibility, expressional risk, for example, doesn't allow you to then knowing what to do, but you won't do it. Or if you're about to succeed, you're about to move forward, and then you stop yourself, right? So that's an interesting one. I want you to reflect on this. I want you to reflect on what is your nervous system in your self-esteem where you feel there's definitely emotions that are holding you back. Is there a meaning behind it? Was there a learned visibility or danger? What is happening for you? It's fascinating. And when you pull this apart, and we'll do activities later. I'm putting together activities based on all this content so that you can go and ask yourself some simple questions. Where is your self-esteem low? Where is your self-esteem high? And just compare the two. What's going on? Because in one area, we can bring that across and help over here. And in the other negative area, we can think, well, is that actually true? And just really drill down on that. And you can do some unconscious work, different meditations and all sorts of things, or you can even do conscious work which gets through to the unconscious by simply looking for evidence as to, is this still true now? Fascinating stuff. Your self-esteem will rise as you sort these things out. At the end of the day, if you don't have any nervous system issues with your self-esteem, fine, move on to the next video. But if you find that there's definitely some emotional stuff going on, there's definitely a trigger point, there's definitely the anxiety or the confidence just drops through the floor in certain situations, there might be something in the body that's holding you back. And there's a bunch of ways you can regulate that. Tait signing out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.